A few months ago, I saw a post on the r/post-hardcore subreddit that requested you give 2 bands, and another person will give them a band that sounds like those 2 bands. The 2 bands I gave were My Chemical Romance, my favorite band of all time, and Foxy Shazam, a highly underrated but very interesting band. I wanted to see what this combo would elicit. I got a few responses with bands like The Venetia Fair and Dr. Manhattan, but then someone recommended a band that would change
everything.
Marianas Trench. I would dive deep into this band, listening to a bunch of albums and songs, watching videos, just really getting to know this band. And I made a whole video about them, which you should really check out. It's one of my favorite videos. I think it's very good. But at the time that I made that video, Marianas Trench hadn't released any new music since 2019.
Luckily,
as I was writing the script to that video, I found out that they were working on a new album. At the time, there was no title, there was no info, no nothing. Then April came, and with it came the first sign of the new Marianas Trench album. Hello and welcome back to another video. If you're new here, I'm Trevor and I am eternally uncool. I make videos about music, music culture, and anything that interests me, but mostly music right now. So if that sounds like something you'd be into, then I highly recommend subscribing to the channel and watching the rest of this video. For those of you who might not know, Marianas Trench are a Canadian pop rock band who've been going pretty strong since the early 2000s. They were signed by the Chaddest of Chads, Chad Kroeger of Nickelback. They released some really good albums ranging from hard rock to pop punk and emo to symphonic rock and pop. They're kind of comparable to bands like Fall Out Boy or Panic at the Disco. I got into them pretty late in the game. I had known about them since high school, but I never really listened to any of their music until this year. And you know what? Better late than never. I fucking love this band. I've been anticipating this album since I made my first Marianas video. I knew that once it dropped, I had to review it. Because my life is all about content. This is probably my most anticipated album of 2024. So I'm hype. I'm ready for this album. But I'm also wary. What if it sucks? What if I only like the singles I've already heard? What if it's not as good as I thought it was gonna be? Not that I think that Marianas Trench would put out a shitty album.
I'm just paranoid.
What I want to do in this video is review the new Marianas Trench album, Haven, and see if it lives up to the expectations that I made for it. So, grab a drink, grab a snack, get comfortable, and let's get into the review. Marianas Trench is one of those bands that doesn't sound the same from album to album. They're really good at switching things up and dabbling in different sounds, while also maintaining a kind of familiarity in their music. Fix Me sounds nothing like Masterpiece Theater, and Masterpiece Theater doesn't sound a thing like Astoria. Another thing Marianas does really well is concepts. All of their albums have a concept or theme. Fix Me was about Josh Ramsey's drug addiction. Masterpiece Theater is kind of like a Broadway show. Ever After had Josh in some kind of evil toyland. I don't know, it's pretty weird.
Good album, though.
You get the picture. They do a lot of concept albums. I talk about the constant change in sound and their penchant for concept albums because these two things play a big role in this new album. This album has a switch up in the sound and a theme. A really good one, too. The concept behind Haven was inspired by The Hero's Journey by Joseph Campbell. The Hero's Journey is a narrative template where a hero goes on a journey learns a lesson, has to face obstacles, and then they return home a better and changed person. Josh Ramsay said about the book, "The more of a deep dive I did into the book, the more I was in awe of how much it applied to every story." So what the band decided to do was incorporate each plot point of the hero's journey into each track of Haven. With all this knowledge, I got very excited, but I had to wait for the album to be released. I started writing this script a few days before it dropped. But now it's here, and I am 100% ready to step into the hero's journey with Haven. What I'm gonna do with this review, just like I do with all my reviews, is take a look at each track, rate them out of 10, and then at the end I'll give the album a score out of 100. Okay? Okay?
Today, Junior?
Okay, let's do this. The album opens with A Normal Life. This is one of Marianas' long Bohemian Rhapsody-esque songs. You know, it kind of feels like 3 songs in one. It's bombastic and cinematic, and I wasn't really impressed when it came out. I don't know what it was. I didn't think the song was bad. No, far from it. Maybe it was the fact that it was 7 minutes long and my attention span has just been ruined by TikTok and Instagram Reels, and I just can't focus for that long. But this song just didn't grab me like many of Mariana's songs before it. It took a while to grow on me, but when it finally did grow on me, it hit me like a ton of bricks. This is a great opening track. The slow atmospheric build-up leading to Josh's vocals is just... it really draws you in. And the song never lets up after it's begun. There's so much energy here. After I finally figured the song out, it grabbed me and didn't let go. I also really like the message in this song. I feel like it's relatable to a lot of people. Kind of about feeling like you don't really fit in to where you are in life. I mean, who hasn't felt that way? If you've never felt that way, you're probably a robot.
And I don't take too kindly to robots around here.
In terms of the hero's journey, I think this is supposed to be like a kind of prologue. Overall though, it is a strong opening track. And even though it took a while to grow on me, I think it's a pretty enjoyable track. 8 out of 10. Now we're falling, never ever be the same. I wasn't immediately wowed by A Normal Life, but when they released the second single, Lightning and Thunder, I was immediately hooked. This song has that kind of 80s vibe that was present a lot in Astoria. It opens with some really nice synths and a really mellow vibe, before kicking into something that really reminds me of self-titled era 1975. Lightning and Thunder acts as the first plot point of the hero's journey, the call to adventure. The inspiration from this song comes from Josh Ramsay and his wife finding out that they are about to have their first child, which Josh called the biggest call to adventure that he'd ever gotten. I also feel like this song is about how things change as you get older. Lyrics about feeling estranged from a normal life, the loss of loved ones, and the prospect of new ones. It's a lot for a synth pop jam. This was the first track that got me really excited for the album. It really reminds me of the type of songs that got me into Marianas in the first place. 10 out of 10.
I know I should stay away, so maybe I'm not getting better.
After Lightning and Thunder, I got more excited with each new track leading up to the album's release. I'm Not Getting Better has a similar 80s synth vibe to the previous track. This is the second plot point in the hero's journey. The refusal of the call. At this point, the hero declines the call to adventure, whatever it may be, out of fear or doubt or insecurities.
Relatable.
In relation to the themes of the album, I think this might have to do with fear of becoming a father. Maybe it's the fear of life changing so drastically, whether it be like a change in dynamics or bringing a new life into this world. I don't know. There's a lot I like about this track. The synths aren't overblown, but instead remind me of more indie rock and indie pop oriented bands like Bleachers and the 1975, while Josh's vocals give off later career Panic at the Disco vibes. And the songwriting is incredibly mature. 8 out of 10.
All this time I've been wasting, as days go by, just can't replace you, and everything all comes down, yeah.
Down to You is probably the song off this album that I've been listening to the most. I don't know what it is about this specific track. Maybe it was the more symphonic meets pop punk sound, but I've been listening to this song constantly since it was released a few weeks ago. Like I said, this song has a much more symphonic sound than the last two tracks. It sounds much more like something on Masterpiece Theater. There's still that bombasticness and cinematic vibe, but this song just feels like a solid pop rock song. This track is the third plot point in the hero's journey, meeting the mentor. This is where the hero will meet a mentor who will guide them on their path, giving them support or advice along the way. Sometimes they provide a magical gift.
Which sounds pretty freaking sweet.
Josh Ramsey said about the song, again, trying to figure out where in my life I could pull from was difficult. But the title, that lyric, Down to You, it's kind of a thing you want to hear a mentor say, like, everything comes down to you. You've got to do this. Who is the mentor in this case? I don't know. Personally, I like to think it's Chad Kroeger.
Look at this photograph.
This is probably one of my favorite songs off of the entire album. If you like a more classic Marianas vibe, this song is definitely for you. 10 out of 10.
These are the dreams we're fighting for. It's now or never.
This song starts off with a synth lead that really surprised me. It's less bombastic and sounds like it could have come from like a lost 80s soft rock song. But Josh's vocals in the beginning are pretty soft and less bombastic than in the other songs we've already heard. It all builds up to a pretty good pre-chorus and chorus though. Now or Never sounds like it would be perfect for a movie montage where the main character is getting ready to do something big. This track is the fourth plot point of the hero's journey, crossing the threshold. This is where the hero leaves the known world and enters into the unknown.
Into the unknown.
The lyrics are pretty uplifting. They talk about no one being able to stop the hero, being able to finally see clearly, fulfilling dreams and all that good shit.
Don't let your dreams be dreams.
Now or Never is a really nice, uplifting track that gets you ready for the adventure ahead. It's less bombastic, but still has that kind of cinematic vibe to it. It's good, but I just wish it could have been, like, bigger. This is where the fun begins. We're going on an adventure. Let's act like it. Still good, though. 7.5 out of 10.
We were born to step into the storm.
Into the Storm starts out kind of slow, with only a piano and some sparse instrumentation, with Josh's more somber, quiet vocals. Honestly, I was worried that this was going to be the whole song. But around the minute-and-a-half mark, the song really gets to pick up with some synths and drums, making what I thought was going to be a slow burn into something more. The rest of the song builds, getting bigger and bigger, adding more and more with each measure, and I'm glad it did. This is the fifth plot point in the hero's journey. Tests, allies, and enemies. This is where the hero has to navigate obstacles and challenges, sometimes with the help of allies, and while facing opposition from enemies. Josh Ramsey said about the track that the hero must shed who they were to make space for the person they're going to become by the end of the arc of their story. This song started off kind of slow, but it wasted no time in picking things up and getting kind of more energetic. And even though I don't think it's as good as the previous tracks, I still think it works really well in the overall concept. 7 out of 10.
Time was running out, but that don't matter now. We were meant to be forever in ancient history.
Ancient History starts off strong. It's got the synths going, the energy is high, it feels like a lost 80s treasure. I'm loving it.
McDonald's.
This has so much more 80s in it than the previous tracks, and that saxophone,
Forget about it.
this song is the 6th plot point in the hero's journey, the approach of the inmost cave. This is where the hero faces their greatest fear and challenge. How this relates to Josh Ramsey as a songwriter, I can't conclusively say. It talks a lot about growing up and being with someone, I assume his wife. She's been with him for most of Mariana's career. But to me, this song feels like it's about growing up and trying to be a better person for the people you love. Overall, really like the energy of this one. 10 out of 10.
And the punchline falls out of spite. So stand and fight.
This is another song that starts off kind of slow. Takes about a minute and some change until it really picks up. There's a lot of orchestration that's pretty nice. This kind of reminds me of a song that would be in like a 90s Disney movie. Like something Hercules would sing. Like when he's sad and down in the dumps or something. I don't know, it's been a long time since I watched Hercules. This is the 7th plot point in the hero's journey. The ordeal. This is the hero's greatest challenge. This is where they face their most challenging obstacle, like the final boss, before they can continue on with their journey. It's a good song and it works in terms of the story, but when it comes to something that's supposed to be about facing this giant enemy or this obstacle, I just feel like it needs to be bigger and more bombastic. 6 out of 10.
But what will become if all that I do is turn and run?
After Stand and Fight, we have Turn and Run. Seems kind of counterproductive in my opinion. Boo! This one starts out slow and somber with some strings, but it does pick up, adding some synths. It starts to sound more determined as it goes on, which I'm sure was intentional. This is the 8th plot point in the hero's journey, the reward. This is when the hero receives a reward in the form of knowledge or maybe some kind of object, like a sick-ass sword or a stick. And that reward will help them as they continue their journey. The lyrics talk about wanting to run away from your problems, but then also question, what will running away do? What will I become if all I do is turn and run? And I think that's a pretty good message. You can't just keep running from your problems. I tell myself every day in the mirror. That'll only make them worse. This song is a bit slow. There's not a point where it gets bigger or more energetic as it goes on. It's pretty consistent in its slowness. 6.5 out of 10.
Here in the dark, no secrets safe forever. This is where the worlds collide. This is where the worlds collide.
For some reason, the piano intro to this one really reminds me of Broken Road by Rascal Flatts. Am I the only one getting that? Yeah, just me? I'm the weirdo? But that doesn't last long because then the drums kick in, adding a lot of pop rock flair, along with the guitars and Josh's theatrical vocals. Thank God, I was worried we were gonna get another slow track. This is the 9th plot point in the hero's journey, the road back. This is where their hero begins their journey back to their old life. I really like this one. It's really high energy and feels really victorious. It feels like a really good song to get you pumped up and ready to face any challenge you might have on that given day. 8 out of 10.
When this life gets you on your knees, when the day's gone, we hold on to the nights like these.
Nights Like These is a pretty vibey song. Just the kind of song you play and just reflect on life. It doesn't do too much, but just enough. It kind of reminds me of older songs like Who Do You Love or Beside You, but kind of less bombastic than those tracks. This is the 10th plot point of the hero's journey, the resurrection. This is where the hero experiences a moment of death and rebirth, symbolizing either physical or metaphorical transformation. This might symbolize Josh Ramsay's transition from a married rock star to a father. Nights Like These is a pretty nice song. It's not too bombastic, but I don't think it needs to be. It's not too slow, has good energy, feels like a good song for the end of the summer. 8 out of 10. This one starts off with the most 80s sounding synth I have ever heard in my life before turning into one of the best Prince songs that Prince never made. This song is so funky and punchy. The energy is so high. I love when bands like Marianas Trench and Fall Out Boy and Panic at the Disco lean into their more R&B influences. Really adds a lot to their sound. It just feels like everyone on the track is having a really good time. This track is the 11th plot point in the hero's journey. The return. This is when the hero returns home transformed. They have new knowledge and insight. They're a changed person. The chorus ends with, "I'll give you something to remember me by." Maybe that could be the music the band has made. Maybe it's Josh's child. Maybe it's a cool stick. Remember Me By is a lot of fun. It feels like a party. Those 80s influences are there and they work perfectly. The song is a victory and it sounds victorious. It's the perfect song to have towards the end of an album like this. 10 out of 10 once again. So now we get to the final track, the title track, Haven. I'm gonna be honest, I wasn't super excited about this one. It's the longest song of the album at 8.5 minutes. Like I said, my attention span is just not there anymore.
But
With the song this long, and the album named after it, it has to be important. It has to be pretty good. The crown jewel. Let's see if it's worth the 8 minutes. Starts off with some pretty chilly synths and Josh's more softer register. It's pretty theatrical. The strings in the background add a lot to the overall experience. There's a feeling of determination in this track, which makes sense when you realize it's the 12th and final plot point of the hero's journey, the freedom to live. This is where the hero finally achieves a state of freedom and enlightenment and gets to live happily ever after. Haven is probably the most bombastic song on the album. It's just a big song. It really harkens back to albums like Masterpiece Theater in its theatricality. And Josh really puts in a performance with his vocals. And the rest of the band really gives everything they got to make this an excellent closer. It's a really good companion to A Normal Life. They really bookend the album perfectly. I was worried I wasn't gonna like this song, but I was proven wrong almost immediately. Haven the song does a lot with its 8.5 minutes. Nothing feels wasted. The song never lets up. The energy is high when it needs to be and brought down when it's called for. It's one of the best performed songs on the entire album. Overall, I think it's a really good closer. This song is a 10 out of 10. I was very excited about Haven when it was announced in April. Being a fairly new fan of the band, I wanted to experience new music and an album rollout for myself. With each new song released, I was hyping myself up for an album that I thought was going to be as good as the ones I'd already heard. But when I started writing the script, I was worried that maybe I got my hopes too high. But I don't think that was the case at all. Haven the album is a very interesting concept album about the hero's journey as it relates to real life. Much of the inspiration behind the album was Josh Ramsay's real life. From losing his parents to finding out he's going to become a father, those are things that really change you. And the journey he portrays here is one that I think a lot of people can relate to. And the music on the album is so bombastic that it fits the concept of the hero's journey perfectly. I complained about the slow songs, but the slow songs work for the slower elements of the journey. It really does a good job in telling the story, soundtracking it. Overall, I think Haven is a strong album. I think it really works to Mariana's strengths in theatricality and bombasticness. And despite there being one or two songs I wasn't really into, I think this is a pretty good album. I'm gonna give Haven a 90 out of 10. 90 out of 10. A 90 out of 100. It's a strong album with a strong message. It fits well with Mariana's other releases, and it gets me excited for what they're gonna do next. What do you think of Haven? Have you listened to it? I want to know your thoughts, so leave them in the comments. That's gonna do it for today's video. I hope you enjoyed it. If you didn't, well, that sucks. But if you did enjoy it, then I highly recommend smashing the like button and sharing this video with everyone you know. I'm a small, independent content creator who does pretty much everything on his own. I don't have people who work for me, I don't have ads, I don't have a Patreon. I do this all for free just because I love making videos. So every like, every comment, every share, any interaction with this video at all really helps to get it pushed out to more people who might be into what I'm doing and want to subscribe to the channel. So with all that being said, thank you for watching. As always, I'm Trevor. Stay uncool. And that's the end of the video. Goodbye.